So the aspen itself, some people refer to them as the healer of the forest. And I made note that they're considered to be one of, if not the largest living organism, and that their connections are all underground, often in harsh terrains. So their root systems run laterally more than deep. They run out and around and cover. They can cover a lot of expanses, and they come up in groves. And they grow not by seed dropping, but by the shoots coming up. Tree that was no longer alive, and it had bark that was peeling. The places where the bark exposed was gray in color. It seemed dry. And one of the things when I'm looking at that I notice is how much our eyes can easily fall onto the immediate surface, but there's a story behind the surface. There's a life under the surface, the below, underneath there. And with aspen, what I find is that there's a process of peeling that off, taking it away, and beginning to reveal the things that are still there, and in many regards calling out to be noticed, to be brought to light, to be lifted forward into a full color again. Well, right now it doesn't look very nice. The outer surface is not what I'm looking for. And for me, that's a huge reflection on life, because so much of what we see is on the outside. And one of the things you actually are doing is you'll be peeling back, and you'll be watching, and you'll be working with it to remove certain layers and let other things that are actually quite beautiful emerge. And to me, that's a huge metaphor. How are you with situations, people, communities, in ways that the outer pain, ugliness, whatever it is that's been there, is actually giving way to something that's always been there, but hasn't always been noticed, or hasn't had opportunity to be expressed. There is very clearly a kind of a inner-outer thing here. In fact, sometimes you may want to leave a piece that you find interesting, purely as it was, and then notice the other things around it. You're peeling a layer away. And that layer had enormous life, was protecting things at one point. Conflict is not always when we're at our best. And sometimes when I'm in conflict with someone, I'm certainly not at my best, right? And so to have an ability that takes account of the bark, but finds a way to let the inner beauty come. And sometimes that takes a long time, because a lot of times it won't come unless it's safe enough or a person notices certain things, etc. But for me, there's a metaphor that's there between below and beyond, between inner and outer, between the bark and the core. That have pain attached to them. Those are also authentic, very authentic, but they sometimes can be hurtful to the spaces, to the people themselves. So how to be with that in a way that you don't lose sight of the inner beauty. that my journey has been a journey of finding ways to begin to notice what's around me, to be more present with it, and noticing the humanity in a person, noticing the beauty of what's there, noticing the beauty of when I'm walking, or etc. And that is a very significant part of what I would consider to be compassionate presence. So how to create little doses, spaces, openings where we experimented with ways to notice. A few of you used a little knife to pluck it away, push it back. We used sandpaper to start to take away the rough, dry edges. Some of you went slow with sandpaper. Some of you went along with me to the machines that permitted you to carve away and to shape. Just the notion about the sandpaper that was rougher shaped something, but in the shaping it was actually releasing. It was letting something come forward that had always been there but could never be noticed unless the other things came. There's a part of this that comes very close to what Michelangelo always said about his sculptures, which was that it was always there, he's just releasing it. The wood also has cracks. I love the cracks. Sometimes they grow because you're opening a space that has not been opened. And so when it opens, it's drying again, and there may be a portion that will crack longer and bigger. I experiment with filling those sometimes with silver or coral and turquoise, because for me it's like kind of bringing something out. Sandpaper that went from really rough to finer and finer and finer. And the more you did that, the more you were working on moving from shaping to now letting some of the beauty that's there actually emerge. So the moment of bringing the oil to the wood is a moment of instantaneous joy. And I wanted some photography of the faces, not just the wood. And I think maybe you caught a few, because when people first saw what was coming after all this work, there actually was kind of an awestruck look on some of the faces, because it's one of the few times that you will have instant gratification in your life, you know, because right then and there you saw, wow. Wow. I said you got to get the face.
Did you get his reaction? Whoa, look at that.
Oil, when the oil goes on, the places that are the softest absorb more. The places that are the hardest will resist it. The knot is the area where the new growth had started. It's a branch that's coming out. These are the hardest areas of the wood. And that hardest area of the wood also often contains the most color. Following a bit of the lead of Mark Nepo, the poet, the thin membrane. So in this case, it's the thin membrane between the inner and the outer life. And now we see it in its place, that there has a certain, this is on the butterfly model. This is the place where the U and the X are meeting. And we're watching it because this is the place that the tree, this location, had the courage to come out. Like an eye, And so it's almost like I'm engaged in a conversation with this piece. And there's an inner eye looking out at me. And I'm looking back in at this inner eye. When I work with this kind of thing, I find that it's good for me for remembering and forgetting. So it's aimless. My mind becomes aimless. In other words, it can wander. And it becomes, at the same time while it's wandering, it becomes intensively focused. So it becomes a meditative space. But for me, the notion of aimless time is deeply healing. I cannot think my way through a lot of things that I experience in my life. But I can give myself the gift of aimless time, of having no purpose in the sense that it's trying to accomplish something with my thinking. And so here's the paradox. Aimless time often are the beginnings of the creative times. The one thing I've learned is a small rule. If something brings you a lot of joy, stay close to it. And if you have difficulty and you feel like you've lost that, then ask yourself, don't ask yourself where the joy went. Ask yourself, what was it that brought me joy, and why is it no longer present in my life?